And it's Ken Kraetzer for CBSI Services Talking Business, our interview series talking with leaders in the field of digital marketing, insurance, banking, customer service, and business education. And today we're really happy to visit the offices in White Plains of Graham Stanley Advertising and chat with our friend, the president and CEO of the company, and that is Larry Woodard. Larry, good to see you.
Hey, great to see you, Ken.
Great to see you. Pleasure. And first, we're going to talk a little bit about your work for the Jimmy V Foundation. I just thought we'd tell us a little bit about how your year has gone. It's been coming out of the pandemic, hopefully, and a year we see a lot of companies going through what we call digital transformation. How has the year been for you?
Well, for my company, seeing as how we're a digital ad agency, it's been awesome. Every company has had to make some kind of move forward in order just to do business, whether it's them communicating internally or whether it is the way that they do business. So if you were a brick and mortar company, you'd had to develop a DTC or direct to consumer piece just in order to keep your numbers right. Communicating with employees not being in the office. So for us, we just have been busier than we've ever been. So last year, 2020, was our best year from a business standpoint, and this year is going to top that year.
Very good, and certainly this year sales seem to be up for retail. Looking at third quarter, going into the early Thanksgiving period, e-commerce is continuing to grow as people are comfortable shopping online. An inflation concern, and also supply chain is limited availability of certain items, or people need to buy early for their holiday purchases. How do you see the retail e-commerce sales going this year?
So we have actually a new client that is retail, and they've done fabulously getting into Kohl's and to JCPenney, and also doing work with Target. And, it's exactly as you say. It's the best of times, it's the worst of times. There are tremendous headwinds in terms of supply chain that are coming for everyone. And I think that we're going to limp through the holiday season because a lot of vendors that perhaps may not have been able to sell in are selling in more easily because they have goods while the retailers need goods, particularly the brick and mortar stores. But coming into January and in the first quarter, when everybody's got to renew, make their stuff, and get their stuff from wherever it's being made, that's when the supply chain issues are really going to be exacerbated. Right now, you see if you go into a store, stores are strange. You see shelves where there's nothing there in certain spaces, and then you see other places where it's just chock full. Made in USA is starting to mean something because if someone manufactures here and they've got the raw materials to do that here, then they're faster to market and they don't have some of the supply chain issues. But there are serious supply chain issues that are affecting pretty much everybody.
And being a digital communications agency, what are some of the key tenets, key strategies that you recommend to clients as everyone's trying to increase their visibility, perhaps in different types of digital formats, and certainly now on social media has become much more important?
Yeah, it's social media, but also how you do social media. So what we saw is that probably 90% of the clients that we have and 90% of just all businesses were participating in some way. So they're on Instagram, or they're on Facebook, or they're doing some TikTok, or they're even trying to figure out the Discord server. But the problems that I saw and that we've seen is that they don't necessarily know what the marketing connectivity needs to be. So we'll see clients and they're saying, well, we're posting away on Instagram and we're showing all of our clothes and stuff, but nothing's happening. And then when we take a closer look, they don't have a URL that points directly to where somebody can get that merchandise that they're talking about online. And then when they get there, there's no compelling reason. All of a sudden, they're thrown into the actual site, and then the site is just selling it as if the customer was browsing for that item. And so the information about why you would buy that thing isn't there. So I'll give you a specific case in point. So got a client, and the client has an equal pay jersey. So the jersey actually promotes equal pay for women. Pretty powerful. So we can do some very, very powerful, social media. So now it's there, and we maybe have someone from soccer, women's soccer or something, and we're saying stand alongside, certain person by going and getting your equal pay jersey. So then when the person clicks on it and they go to the website, from the manufacturer, now all of a sudden it's just a jersey and it costs $80. And then below there, they're selling all the other jerseys that they sell from different manufacturers, and they're $16.99, $24. And there isn't something right there on the site that says, stand alongside so-and-so and do this. So that connectivity is missing in some cases. And in some cases, clients just don't understand how to use the certain tools. They're at a tool where there's entertainment. So they're trying to do a business sell on TikTok where you've got to do a contest, you have to do a challenge, you have to do something that engages the consumer in the way that they want to be engaged in order to have them work. So we find that a lot of times what we're doing is we're just helping the client use the proper tool, the proper social media platform in the right way to engage customers so that the customers can engage the way they would on that platform, be able to share and build community, and then that ties back to commerce.
Very good. Now, maybe just a thought about what do you see happening in 2022? We're hopefully coming out of the pandemic. This new strain is a concern, but hopefully the economy is going to get a little bit back to normal. Hopefully the supply chain issue will be solved. What are you looking at for as some of the opportunities and challenges for next year?
Yeah, Ken, I think it's fascinating because the thing that always comes up to me, and I always mention it to clients and say it in meetings, is the law of unintended consequences. Because you don't necessarily know what's going to happen when you make one move, right? And how that's going to affect the next move. What we do know, for instance, is that business has forever been changed. The way you do business has forever, for the foreseeable future, been changed. But what that means, people have to see and react on it. So if you start talking about 2022, here are the couple of things that we're saying. During the absolute, ground zero COVID year, 2020, a lot of companies just stopped and they tried to say, hey, listen, we can't go into the office. How do we do business? And so everyone was just trying to survive and figure it out. Then in 2021, we started to see some things were happening. For instance, Zoom fatigue. We can get online and we can talk to one another, but hey, look, I'm tired of that. I can't just stay on all day. I've got other things I have to do, or I just don't like it, or it's just not productive because we got a team presenting and everybody's in a different place and we can't coordinate and we can't make eye contact and do all those things that we need to do. So 2021 was like, let's try to adjust to all of these things and let's try to do some things when the risk is lower and we can mitigate the risk in person, and let's try to do that. So now here comes 2022, right? And so in 2022, now there are winners. There are people who are just flying high. They've really figured out how to do this. They've figured out how to move their people around. They've figured out how to meet. They've figured out how to, get to the future before other companies and really excel there. And then you have companies that are traditional companies that we depend on and that we rely on that haven't been able to do it as well. So what happens to those companies? A good example is a FedEx. So FedEx, they really excelled in getting a package to somebody overnight. But now, not just that they have supply chain issues, they've got some employee hiring issues, but on top of all of those, now that people are right in front of each other, they don't need to do the same things. I mean, with DocuSign and other things, I now don't have to send stuff overnight to somebody and have them have it in their hands. I've figured out a workaround. And so a lot of those workarounds now affect their business. So what have they done? Well, they've made some temporary price adjustments. A couple of weeks ago, I needed to send a document to your wife's company to York, and so it's a FedEx. So running out of time, I went to FedEx the paperwork to them. They're in the same town I'm in, virtually, right? And FedEx is charging me the same price that they would charge me to send something to California with the same principle on it. So
hopefully that package didn't have to go to Memphis and back. I think
Exactly.
They figured out how to do local.
So $29.99 to send something that's going 2 miles.
Yeah.
That's not sustainable. So as they look to see how do they rejigger their business to fit into the fact that now most people, no matter where they are comfortable talking to each other from wherever they are, and there's a lot of different ways to share information and documents. Now, what's their business model, and how does it have to change for them to be? So there are a number of companies that have and are going to run into these logistic issues, these issues of now business is done differently. let's say you're in a support company like in Manhattan, we're still, we're down in transportation with people using, public transportation, but we're way, way down in people going to the office and being in the office. So many buildings in New York just don't have
Yeah,
the traffic.
and it's sad when you go and walk through Manhattan, even Midtown, and see so many storefronts empty.
Absolutely. So what happens there? The business is going somewhere. The people, even if you decide to do without for a period of time, still eventually you're going to want to do some of the things. You look at every war we've ever had. In the middle of the ruins in Europe or wherever, people start doing what they're doing, and they continue to do it because that's the way we're wired as people. And so as we're moving on, there's going to be some people are going to have younger companies, and they're going to be willing to take more risks. Some people are going to have older companies. I worry about executives. A lot of guys that I've known for years and years and years who are in place as presidents or CMOs who are going to look at the calendar and say, you want to know what? This really isn't going to change in the next 4 or 5 years, and that's my whole rest of my tenure. So what do? Do I walk off now so that we get this brain drain of guys that are just calling it in? Or do I stay? And if I do, and I decided that I don't want to travel and I don't want to do this and I don't want to do that, I can't keep making the same decisions. I've noticed that this year in the competitive position, when people are making their budgets for next year, a lot of them just check the box and they're doing the same thing. So instead of having a pitch where now there are 3 or 4 agencies pitching against it, they don't want to go through all of that. So they're just doing what they did last year and they did the year before. But
I think the federal government's doing that with the continuing resolution right now too.
And that can only last for so long.
Yeah.
Before you lose a competitive edge and or people just flat pass you by,
Well, I mean, there's so much new technology, and success goes to those who figure out how to use the new technology effectively first in almost every field today. Larry Woodard, the president and chairman of Graham Stanley Advertising, you have a passion for working on the board of the Jimmy V Foundation. Cancer has touched almost everyone's family, your family, my family, and you are doing great work. You ran a spectacular golf tournament here in the Westchester, New York City suburbs this summer, and you got the Jimmy V Basketball Classic at Madison Square Garden. First, tell us about the golf tournament. You raised a lot of money this summer for the Jimmy V Foundation.
Yeah, golf has been my passion for a long time. We've played together, I belong to a wonderful club and just decided that I wanted to get on the board. Why don't I do a small little golf tournament? Called a buddy of mine who runs a company in York and said, hey, how'd you like to be the honoree? He thought about it a little while and then he said yes. He's also a big fan of Jim Valvano and the Jimmy V Foundation. So we sort of got together and raised more than $200,000 for cancer research.
That's great.
It was put together in a very short period of time. I think a month and a half. Ran beautifully. Was an awesome event. The weather participated, and had a lot of fun people to come out. And so just it was awesome. And look forward to doing it next year, bigger and better.
You got to mention your sponsors. Actually, my wife's company in White Plains.
Absolutely.
Or in Harrison, actually.
Yep, York International, wonderful, insurance organization, run by Rob Kestenbaum, who's a buddy of mine for a long time. And Rob just went all out, and helped make this thing tremendous. And really gave me an idea moving forward of how big it can be. And so, next year, he'll always be the first honoree, I told him, but next year we'll go bigger and better. And so it's very exciting from that perspective.
That's it. And you've got the Jimmy V Classic this week, December 7th, at Madison Square Garden, Tennessee versus Texas Tech, and your alma mater, Syracuse, playing Villanova. Sounds like a spectacular evening. Tell us about it.
It really is. ESPN, along with Jim Valvano, are the founders of the Jimmy V Foundation. So when they do Jimmy V Week every year, they're very serious about raising money. As a matter of fact, by the numbers, to date, the V Week has raised $134 million for cancer research. So that's nothing to sneeze at. They have a modest goal this year of 1.5. We're better than halfway there. I think the last time I looked, we were about $654,000 of the way there, and have not yet come to the big event, which was just Tuesday night. It's really interesting. A couple of things that I love about being on the board of the V Foundation and the V Foundation in itself. One is just who makes up the board. So we've got people like Robin Roberts and all the ex presidents of ESPN, Dick Vitale, a new member David Robinson, president of ESPN Jimmy Pitaro, and Derek Wittenberg, who actually played with for Jimmy on the 1983 NCAA champions.
North Carolina State, yeah.
Absolutely. And so it's a wonderful organization from that standpoint, good people. But more than that, this idea of victory over cancer that everybody has embraced. 100% of donations, direct donations, go to cancer research and programs. And something that I'm passionate about is this year's focus, and that is the Stuart Scott Fund. As we were looking at where holes might be a few years ago, one of the things that we had to come to grips with was the fact that there are some real disparities for minorities in cancer. And some of those disparities start with cancer research, fewer clinical trials, fewer scholars that are funded to be able to do specific research on maybe some of the biological, reasons that cancer treats people of color differently. We fund that specifically through the Stuart Scott Fund. And it's been amazing. And so, David Robinson, a few other, Derek Wittenberg, myself, we really put an emphasis on getting professional sports and other people to support us in it. We've got a wonderful event happening Monday night called the Booyah Classic at the Ziegfeld, which is going to be a big gala for Stuart Scott and sort of putting emphasis on what we're trying to do. His daughters will be there, which is great. And then Tuesday, we've got the Jimmy V Classic, and my alma mater, Syracuse, is playing. And I've got a challenge going with Syracuse alumni. We'll try to do some matching stuff to get the numbers up as well.
Larry Woodard, great to visit with you, President and CEO of Graham Stanley Advertising here in White Plains. Best wishes on your work with the Jimmy V Foundation and your company going into 2022, and happy holidays to you and your family.
Hey, you too, Ken.
Good to see you. This is Ken Kraetzer for CBSI Services, Talking Business.